The police called. "Your son killed himself. We need someone to identify the body." I said, "I only have one daughter. I don't have a son." They insisted, "Please come, or we'll be there to pick you up." When I walked into the morgue and they pulled back the sheet, I stumbled backward. Lying there dead was... The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I know the exact time because I'd been staring at my laptop screen for 3 hours, trying to finish a grant proposal that was due the next morning, and I'd been checking the clock obsessively, watching the deadline approach like a train I couldn't outrun. When my phone lit up with an unknown number, my first thought was spam. My second thought was my daughter. Emma was 23 and living 2 states away, working her first real job out of college. She called every Sunday like clockwork, but never this late, and never from a number I didn't recognize. I answered on the 4th ring. "Is this Margaret Hollis?" The voice was male, official, carefully neutral in that way that makes your stomach drop before your brain catches up. "Yes, who is this?" "Ma'am, this is Detective Reeves with the Portland Police Department. I'm calling about your son." I felt my grip tighten on the phone. "I don't have a son." There was a pause. Not the pause of someone who's made a mistake, but the pause of someone choosing their next words carefully. "Ma'am, we have a young man here, approximately 25 years old. He died by suicide approximately 6 hours ago. In his wallet, we found an emergency contact card with your name and phone number listed as Mother." The room felt suddenly cold. I pulled my cardigan tighter around my shoulders. "There's been a mistake. I have one daughter. Her name is Emma. She's alive and well in Chicago. I spoke to her 3 days ago." The name on his driver's license is Ryan Hollis. Date of birth, March 14th, 1999. March 14th, 1999. The numbers meant nothing to me. Should they? I tried to do the math backwards. 25 years ago I would have been, 31, married to David. Emma had been 2 years old. "I don't know anyone named Ryan Hollis," I said, and my voice sounded strange to my own ears, too high and thin. "You have the wrong person." "Ma'am," the detective's voice became firmer, less patient. "We need someone to identify the body. If you can't come to us, we'll need to send officers to bring you in. This is a legal requirement in cases of unattended death." "I'm telling you, I don't have a son. Mrs. Hollis, please. We understand this is difficult, but we need you to come down to the medical examiner's office as soon as possible. We're located at—" "I know where it is," I interrupted. I didn't know why I said that. I'd never been to the medical examiner's office, but my hands were shaking, and some part of me understood that arguing with this man on the phone wouldn't change whatever was waiting for me. The grant proposal sat abandoned on my laptop screen, the cursor blinking in the middle of a sentence I'd never finished that night. I drove. The building looked exactly like you'd expect. Gray concrete, institutional windows, a parking lot with too many empty spaces at midnight. I sat in my car for 7 minutes before I could make myself get out. The air smelled like rain, though it hadn't rained. Portland always smells like rain. Detective Reeves met me in the lobby. He was younger than he'd sounded on the phone, maybe 40, with tired eyes and a coffee stain on his shirt collar. He introduced himself again, shook my hand with a grip that was professionally sympathetic, and led me down a hallway that seemed to stretch longer with each step. "Mrs. Hollis, I want to prepare you." "It's Ms.," I said. "I've been divorced for 12 years. He nodded as if this information mattered. "Ms. Hollis, I want to prepare you for what you're about to see. The young man died by hanging. There will be visible marks on his neck. His face may appear discolored. If at any point you need to step out—" "I'll be fine," I said. I wouldn't be fine. I didn't know what I'd be. The room was smaller than I expected, colder. There was a body on a metal table, covered with a pale blue sheet. A woman in scrubs stood beside it, her expression professionally blank. "Whenever you're ready," Detective Reeves said. I nodded. The woman pulled back the sheet. I stumbled backward. Not because of what I saw, though the detective had been right. There were marks on the neck. The face was wrong, discolored in ways that made it hard to look at directly. I stumbled because of what I recognized. The shape of the jaw, the way the hair grew, thick and dark with a cowlick on the left side. The ears, small, close to the head, with earlobes that didn't quite attach at the bottom. The hands, visible where they rested at his sides, with long fingers and a crooked pinky on the right hand. I knew these features. I'd seen them every day for 27 years of marriage. This boy, this dead boy, looked exactly like David, not Emma. Emma had my coloring, my nose, my smile, but this stranger on the metal table had my ex-husband's face, 25 years younger, staring at nothing with half-open eyes that were the exact shade of gray-blue David's had been before I'd stopped looking at them long enough to remember the color. "Ms. Hollis," the detective's hand was on my elbow, steadying me. "Do you recognize him?" "No," I whispered. Then louder, "No, I don't know who this is." But I couldn't stop looking at the hands. The crooked pinky. David had broken his finger in high school playing basketball. It had healed wrong. He'd always been self-conscious about it, kept that hand in his pocket in photographs. This boy had the same crooked finger on the same hand. "The wallet," I heard myself say. "You said he had a wallet. Can I see it?" Detective Reeves exchanged a glance with the woman in scrubs. She left the room and returned with a clear plastic bag containing a worn leather wallet, a cell phone, a set of keys, and a small spiral notebook with a red cover. The detective removed the wallet from the bag and opened it. "The driver's license," he said, holding it up. "Ryan Hollis, DOB 0314, 1999. An address in Northeast Portland I didn't recognize, and a photo, the same face I was trying not to look at on the table, but alive, unsmiling, staring at the camera with an expression that reminded me of something I couldn't place. "The emergency contact card," the detective continued, pulling out a small white card from behind the license. In careful handwriting, "In case of emergency, contact Margaret Hollis," followed by my cell phone number. Nothing else, no relationship indicated, no secondary contact. "I don't understand," I said. It was the truest thing I'd said since I arrived. "Is there any possibility," the detective began carefully, "that your ex-husband had a child you weren't aware of?" The question sat in the air between us like something physical. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say it was impossible, that I would have known, that 25 years ago we'd been married, living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, that I would have noticed if he'd been living a double life. But I'd also thought he was faithful, and I'd been wrong about that too. "I need to make a phone call," I said. I called David from my car, sitting in the parking lot with the engine running and the heat on full blast because I couldn't stop shaking. He answered on the second ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Margaret, what's wrong? Is it Emma?" "Emma's fine." My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else's body. "David, I need you to answer a question, and I need you to tell me the truth." A pause. I could hear him shifting, probably sitting up in bed. I wondered if Stephanie was there next to him, the woman he'd left me for, the one who'd been 28 to his 45 when they started their affair. "What question?" "Did you have a son?" The silence that followed told me everything. It wasn't the silence of confusion. It wasn't the silence of someone trying to figure out what kind of joke this was. It was the silence of someone whose secret has just walked into the light, and they're calculating how much they can still hide. "Margaret, did you have a son?" "It's complicated," I laughed. It came out wrong, too loud, nearly hysterical. A couple walking to their car looked over, and I turned away, pressing my forehead against the steering wheel. "His name is Ryan," I said. "Ryan Hollis. He's 25 years old. He has your face, David. He has your hands. He has your broken pinky finger. And he's dead." "What?" The shock in his voice sounded genuine, but I was past caring about genuine. I'd spent years learning to not trust my ability to read David's emotions. "He killed himself. Tonight, the police called me because I was listed as his emergency contact. I just identified his body at the medical examiner's office." My voice was steady now, cold. "So I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you have a son?" "Jesus Christ." I heard movement, the sound of sheets rustling. A woman's voice in the background, Stephanie, asking what was wrong. David's muffled response. "Go back to sleep. It's nothing. Nothing." "I need you to tell me everything," I said. "Now. Or I swear to God, David, I will—" Her name was Michelle. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Michelle Torres. We met at a conference in 1998, San Francisco. It was just supposed to be one weekend." I closed my eyes. The heater was blasting, but I felt frozen. "She called me 3 months later, said she was pregnant. Said she was going to keep it. And you just, what, paid her off? I sent money. He sounded defensive now, like I was being unfair. Every month, for years, child support. I made sure he had everything he needed. Everything except a father. She didn't want me involved. She was clear about that. She said she didn't need anything from me except financial support. I respected her wishes. I wanted to laugh again. Respected her wishes. As if this was about respect and not about David's comfort, David's convenience, David's ability to pretend this child didn't exist so he could go home to his real family and sleep soundly. When did you find out? He asked. 2 hours ago, when the police called and told me my son was dead. He wasn't. David stopped himself. He wasn't what? He wasn't your son? He had your DNA. He had your face. He had your last name. I was going to say he wasn't your responsibility. The cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. Not because he was wrong. This boy had never been my responsibility. I'd never even known he existed. But because of what it revealed about how David saw the world. There were his responsibilities, and there were things that didn't concern him. And apparently a child dying fell into the latter category, simply because I hadn't given birth to him. The mother, I said. Michelle, is she? She died, cancer, about 4 years ago. Ryan would have been 21. 4 years ago, Emma had been 19. Home from college for the summer. We'd taken a trip together, just the two of us, to visit my sister in Vermont. We'd hiked and laughed and stayed up late talking about her classes, her friends, her uncertain future. David had been busy with work, he'd said. Couldn't make it. Had he gone to the funeral? I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. Did you ever meet him? I asked instead. Ryan, did you ever see him in person? Another pause. Twice. Once when he was 8, Michelle called me, said he was asking questions about his father. She thought maybe if we met once it would be enough. So I flew out to Portland for a weekend. We went to the zoo. His voice softened slightly, remembering. He was a smart kid, quiet, asked a lot of questions about what I did for work, where I lived. I told him I traveled a lot, that I couldn't be around as much as I wanted. And the second time? After Michelle died. The state contacted me. They needed to establish custody. Ryan was technically an adult by then, but there were some legal issues with the house, her assets. I flew out, met with him and a social worker. He didn't want anything from me. Wouldn't even look at me. I signed the papers and that was it. That was it. A 21-year-old boy loses his mother and his father flies in, signs papers, and flies back out again. He had my phone number as his emergency contact, I said. Why would he do that? I don't know. Did you give it to him? No, I haven't spoken to him since that meeting 4 years ago. I don't know how he got your information. I thought about the card in the plastic bag, the careful handwriting, just my name and number, nothing else, not mother in the relationship field, just a name, just a phone number, just the thinnest thread connecting a dead boy to a woman he'd never met. I have to go, I said. Margaret, wait. I hung up. I didn't drive home. I sat in the parking lot for another 40 minutes, staring at nothing, until a security guard knocked on my window and asked if I was all right. I said yes automatically, the way you do, and he looked at me like he knew I was lying, but was too tired to push it. I drove to a 24-hour diner on the east side and ordered coffee I didn't drink. The waitress was young, maybe Emma's age, with tired eyes and a name tag that said Brittany. She refilled my cup 3 times without asking, and each time she gave me a look that said she understood. Whatever this was, she'd been there too. At 3 a.m., I finally looked at my phone. 17 missed calls from David. 3 text messages. Please call me back. We need to talk about this. I know you're upset, but this isn't my fault. I deleted the messages, without reading them fully. Then I opened a new browser tab and searched. Ryan Hollis Portland obituary. Nothing yet. Too soon. Death had only happened hours ago. The internet hadn't caught up. I tried Facebook instead. There were dozens of Ryan Hollises. I scrolled through profiles. Different faces, different lives, different states. Then I found him. The profile picture was grainy, taken from a distance. A young man sitting on a bench near the water, face partially turned away from the camera. The profile was sparse. No posts visible to the public. 93 friends. Last active 6 months ago. I clicked on the photos. There were only 4, all old, all showing the same reluctance to be photographed. A birthday cake with 21 candles. A woman who must have been Michelle, dark hair, warm smile, with her arm around a teenage Ryan who looked stiff and uncomfortable. A landscape shot of mountains, and one more, added just 3 weeks ago. Ryan in a coffee shop, looking directly at the camera with an expression I couldn't read. Someone had commented on it. "Miss you, dude. Hope you're doing okay." Another comment from the same person. "Seriously, man, call me back." I clicked on the friend's profile. Tyler Chen, 26 years old, works at Powell's Books. I sent him a message without thinking it through. "Hi, Tyler. I'm trying to reach anyone who knew Ryan Hollis. This is important. Please call me." I included my phone number. Then I went back to Ryan's profile and stared at the photo of him and his mother. He couldn't have been more than 15 in the picture, skinny and awkward, with David's face, but Michelle's smile. She looked happy. He looked like he was trying. At 4:30 a.m., my phone rang. "This is Tyler," a cautious voice said. "You messaged me about Ryan?" "Yes, How did I explain this? I'm Margaret. The police called me tonight about Ryan. I was listed as his emergency contact." "Shit." He sounded young, scared. I knew something was wrong. He'd been so quiet lately, wouldn't answer my texts. I should have checked on him. "Did you know him well?" "We worked together at the bookstore. He started about 2 years ago part-time, while he was finishing school. We got pretty close. Tyler's voice cracked. "He was a really good guy. Quiet but funny when you got to know him. Smart as hell. He was studying history at Portland State. Just graduated last spring." I wrote this down on a napkin. Portland State, history degree. "Did he ever—" I didn't know how to ask this. "Did he ever mention me or his father?" A long pause. "He didn't talk about his family much," Tyler said carefully. "I knew his mom died when he was in college. He mentioned that once, but about his dad or anyone else, he kind of shut down when it came to that stuff. But he had my phone number. He must have said something." "Look, I don't know who you are to him," Tyler said, and there was an edge in his voice now, but Ryan didn't anyone. I mean, he had friends, people cared about him, but family, he was alone. I tried to get him to come to Thanksgiving at my parents' place last year, and he looked at me like I'd suggested he jump off a bridge. The metaphor hit wrong. I flinched. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to. I'm just trying to understand." "Understand what? What he was to me? What I was supposed to be to him? Why he died with my name in his wallet?" "Everything," I said. Tyler agreed to meet me the next morning at the coffee shop where the last photo had been taken. I went home at dawn, stood in my shower until the hot water ran cold, and changed into clean clothes like I was preparing for something I couldn't name. The shop was small, crowded with students and remote workers hunched over laptops. Tyler was already there, sitting in the corner with 2 cups of coffee. He was tall, Asian, with a streak of blue in his black hair and anxious eyes that kept darting to the door. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. He pushed one of the coffees toward me. "I didn't know what you liked. It's just black." "That's perfect." We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop hummed with ordinary life. People ordering, laughing, complaining about work. Someone's laptop played music too loud. A barista called out a complicated order. "I brought something," Tyler said finally. He pulled a small red notebook from his bag, the same one I'd seen in the evidence bag. "The police said I could have it. I thought maybe you should have it instead." He slid it across the table. "What is it?" "His journal, kind of. He used to write in it during his breaks at work. I never read it. He was private about it. But the police looked through it when they were investigating. They said it might help explain what happened." I picked up the notebook. The cover was worn, edges bent from being carried in a pocket. I opened it to a random page. March 14th, 2022, 23 today. Michelle used to make chocolate cake. Every year, even when money was tight. She'd sing off key, and I'd pretend to be embarrassed. Nobody sang today. I closed it quickly. It felt like touching something too private, too raw. "Did you read this?" I asked Tyler. "Just a few pages, after the police showed it to me." He looked down at his coffee. "There's stuff in there about his dad. About you. About me?" Near the end, The last few entries. I wanted to read it immediately. I wanted to throw it away. I wanted to go back to Thursday night at 11:46 p.m. before the phone rang, when my biggest problem was a grant proposal I couldn't finish. Tell me about him, I said instead. Not the sad parts. Tell me who he was when he was okay. Tyler's expression softened. He loved history, like, really loved it. He could talk for hours about the Byzantine Empire or the Silk Road or whatever. At work, he'd recommend these obscure books to customers, and they'd always come back and thank him because he just knew. He knew what people needed to read. What did he read for himself? Fantasy, mostly. Tolkien, Ursula Le Guin. He was rereading the Earthsea books when Tyler stopped. Sorry, you said not the sad parts. It's okay. He was learning to cook. He was terrible at it, like burn water terrible, but he kept trying. He'd bring these disasters to work and make us all try them. Last month he made brownies that were somehow both burned and raw at the same time. Tyler smiled at the memory. But he was getting better. He'd just made these cookies that were actually good, chocolate chip. He was so proud. I thought about David, who'd never learned to cook, who'd always said it wasn't his thing. I thought about Emma, who could make a perfect risotto and had taught herself to bake bread during the pandemic. I thought about the ways we pass things down without meaning to, and the ways we fail to pass anything down at all, as did Father. Legal stuff requires his signature. I don't want to see him. The next entry was 3 weeks later, October 24th, 2020. I met my father today. He flew in from Sacramento, wore a suit, shook my hand like I was a business associate. He has my hands, or I have his. I'd never thought about where I got my hands from. He said he was sorry about Michelle. He called her Michelle, not your mother, like she was just someone he used to know. He asked if I needed anything. Money, help with the house. I said no. He looked relieved. He mentioned he has a daughter, my half-sister, Emma. She's in college, studies environmental science. He said it like he thought I'd want to know, like it would make us something. I didn't ask anything about her. When he left, he said to call if I ever needed anything, gave me his card. I threw it away. I put the journal down. My hands were shaking. Emma. He'd known about Emma. Had David told him, or had Ryan looked us up? How long had he known he had a sister? I picked up my phone and called Emma. She answered on the third ring. Mom, it's midnight. Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. I needed to hear your voice. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything's fine. I was lying. Everything was not fine. But how did I tell her this? How did I explain that she'd had a brother she'd never met, and now she'd never get the chance? Mom, you're scaring me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Can you do me a favor? Can you come home this weekend? I mean, I guess I have some stuff planned, but please, I need to talk to you about something, in person. A pause. I could hear her breathing, could picture her sitting up in bed, running her hand through her hair the way she did when she was worried. Okay, she said finally. I'll catch a flight Friday night. Thank you. Mom? Yes? Whatever it is, it's going to be okay. I wanted to believe her. I kept reading. November 12th, 2020. Got the life insurance payout from Michelle's policy. $50,000. She must have been paying into it for years. I never knew. Paid off her medical debt. The house, student loans. There's still money left. I don't know what to do with it. Feels wrong to spend it. December 25th, 2020. Tyler invited me to his family's Christmas. I said I had plans. I don't have plans. Michelle and I used to watch bad Christmas movies and eat Chinese food. She'd make fun of the plots and I'd point out historical inaccuracies. She'd say, "It's a Hallmark movie, Ryan. Accuracy is not the point." I ordered Chinese food, ate half of it, watched It's a Wonderful Life. Michelle hated that one, said it was manipulative. She was right. January 1st, 2021 New Year's resolution, figure out what the fuck I'm doing with my life. The entries became sparser after that. Sometimes weeks would go by with nothing. Then there'd be a burst of activity, pages filled with lecture notes, reading lists, observations about customers at the bookstore, sketches of book covers. Then, August 19th, 2021, I looked her up today. My father's wife, ex-wife, Margaret Hollis. She's a grant writer for a nonprofit, Environmental Conservation. There's a bio on the organization's website. Photo of her smiling at the camera, professional but warm. She looks kind. I don't know why I looked. September 3rd, 2021. Found Emma on Instagram. Her profile is public. Lots of photos of hiking trips, camping, friends. She looks happy. She has his eyes. Our eyes. I should stop looking. September 10th, 2021. I didn't stop looking. Emma posted about a research project she's working on, something about wetland restoration in the Chicago area. She's passionate about it. You can tell from the way she writes. We have nothing in common. She's outgoing, adventurous, has 100 friends. I have Tyler and some people from school I barely talk to. But we have the same hands. I noticed it in one of her photos. She has the crooked pinky finger too. I had to stop reading. I went to Emma's Instagram, scrolled back to 2021, found the post he was talking about. She was standing in a wetland, muddy boots, bright smile, holding some kind of plant. The caption was long and enthusiastic, full of scientific terms and exclamation points. I zoomed in on her hands. She was holding the plant with both hands, displaying it for the camera. And yes, there it was. The right pinky, bent slightly wrong. I'd never noticed. In 23 years of being her mother, I'd never noticed she had David's crooked finger. Had Ryan noticed? Had he studied that photo, looking for the ways they were the same? October 15th, 2021 Therapy today. Dr. Chen asked if I've thought about reaching out to my father's family. I said no. She asked why not. I said because they're not my family. She gave me that look. The one that means she thinks I'm lying to myself. Maybe I am. November 2nd, 2021. I wrote a letter to Margaret. I haven't sent it. I don't know if I will. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Just, I exist. I'm here. Your ex-husband had a son, and I'm that son. And I don't know what I want from you, but I want you to know I exist. It sounds pathetic when I write it out. November 9th, 2021. Tore up the letter. December 15th, 2021. Tyler asked if I'm going home for the holidays. I said I am home. He looked sad. I hate when people look at me like that. February 14th, 2022. Valentine's Day. The bookstore was full of people buying romance novels and poetry collections, love poems. Emily Dickinson, Pablo Neruda. A woman bought a copy of Love in the Time of Cholera and cried while I rang her up. She said it was her late husband's favorite. They used to read it to each other. I didn't know what to say. Michelle used to say that love was the only thing that made sense in a world that didn't. I was 16 when she said that. I thought it was cheesy. I don't know what I think now. The entries continued. Ordinary days, books read, movies watched, meals eaten alone, and woven through it all references to Margaret, to Emma, to the family he watched from a distance like someone standing outside a lighted window. April 3rd, 2022. Emma graduated today. I saw the photos on Instagram. Her in a cap and gown, surrounded by friends. Margaret was there. She posted a photo on Facebook. Yes, I found her Facebook. I know I'm a stalker. The caption, so proud of this brilliant woman. I wonder if Margaret would be proud of me. I graduated too. Last month. No one was there. Tyler offered to come, but I said it was fine. It was fine. Portland State University, Bachelor of Arts in History, 3.7 GPA magna cum laude. Nobody sang. I put the journal down and cried. Emma arrived Friday night at 9 p.m. I picked her up at the airport and held her longer than usual when we hugged. She looked tired, worried, confused about why I'd asked her to come home with no explanation. Mom, you're freaking me out, she said as we drove back to my apartment. Just tell me what's going on. Are you sick? Is it Grandma? Everyone's healthy, I said. This is different. Different how? I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Let's wait until we get home. We drove in silence. Emma kept looking at me, then looking away, then looking back. When we pulled into my parking spot, she turned in her seat to face me. Mom, please. I took a deep breath. You have a brother, I said. Had. You had a brother. His name was Ryan. He died a week ago. Emma stared at me like I'd started speaking a language she didn't understand. What? So I told her. All of it. David's affair. Michelle. The child support payments I'd never known about. The 2 meetings, once when Ryan was 8, once when he was 21. The phone call from the police. The body in the morgue with David's face. Emma listened without interrupting. Her face went through stages. Disbelief, shock, anger, grief. When I finished, she sat frozen, hands clenched in her lap. I don't understand, she whispered. Dad had a son? For 25 years he had a son and he just, what, pretended he didn't exist? He sent money. Money, Emma's voice rose. He sent money like that makes it okay? He had a child, Mom, a child, and he just… She stopped, put her hand over her mouth. Oh my God, this whole time, my entire life. He had another kid. I didn't know, I said. I need you to believe that. I had no idea. I know you didn't. She turned to look at me and her eyes were full of tears. But he knew. He knew and he didn't tell us. He let this boy grow up alone. He let him… She couldn't finish. There's more, I said quietly. I handed her the journal. We stayed up all night reading it together. Emma cried through most of it. So did I. We read the entries about Michelle, about David's visits, about the way Ryan had watched our lives from the outside. When we got to the parts about Emma, she had to stop several times. She kept saying I didn't know over and over, like a mantra. Like if she said it enough times, it would change something. He saw my graduation photos, she said, staring at the entry from April 2022. He knew I graduated. He knew what I studied. And I didn't even know he existed. He didn't want to bother you. Bother me, he was my brother. She stood up, started pacing. I could have known him. We could have been… He wouldn't have been alone. Why didn't he reach out? Why didn't he just message me or call or something? I thought about the letter he'd written to me, the one he'd torn up, the way he'd described himself as pathetic for wanting connection. He thought he wasn't wanted, I said. He thought he was just a mistake, a secret David kept. Emma sank back down onto the couch. This is so fucked up. Yeah. Have you talked to Dad? Once, on the phone, the night it happened. What did he say? That it was complicated. Emma laughed bitterly. Complicated, right. Because abandoning your kid is just a complicated situation. She wiped her eyes. I'm calling him. Emma, but she already had her phone out, was already dialing. I listened to it ring, watched her face harden as he answered. Dad, it's me. Yeah, I know it's late. I'm at Mom's. A pause. Yeah, she told me. About Ryan, about your son, your dead son. Her voice broke. How could you? How could you just… He was your kid, Dad. He was my brother, and you let him grow up thinking no one wanted him. I couldn't hear David's response, but I could see Emma's reaction, the way her jaw tightened, the way her knuckles went white gripping the phone. No, you don't get to make excuses. I don't care what arrangement you had with his mom. He was a child. Children need fathers, and after she died, you met with him once and then what? Just went back to your life? She was crying now, angry tears. He died alone, Dad. Did you know that? He killed himself, and he died alone because everyone in his life either died or abandoned him or didn't even know he existed. More silence. I saw Emma's expression change from anger to something harder to read. I don't want to hear it, she said quietly. I don't want to hear about how you tried, or how difficult it was, or any of it. Because you know what? I'm your daughter and you've been there for me my whole life. You came to my school plays. You helped me with homework. You were at my graduation. She looked at the journal. He graduated too, same year as me, and he was alone. She ended the call and threw her phone onto the couch. We sat there in silence. Finally, Emma spoke. What happened to him? The journal just stops. The last entry is from 2 months ago. I'd read ahead while she was calling David. I knew what the last entry said. I handed her the journal, open to the final pages. October 17th, 2023, Dr. Chen and I talked about the idea of family today. She asked what family means to me. I said, people who show up. She said, so people who don't show up aren't family? I didn't have an answer. October 30th, 2023. Tyler is moving to Seattle. New job. Better pay. He asked if I'd visit. I said yes, but I don't know if I will. Everyone leaves eventually. That's just how it works. November 15th, 2023. 24 years old. Michelle would have been 51. I went to her grave. Haven't been in a while. Someone had left flowers. I don't know who. Maybe one of her old coworkers. I sat there for 2 hours, didn't cry, didn't say anything, just sat. I'm tired. November 28th, 2023, Thanksgiving. Tyler called from Seattle, asked how I was spending the day, told him I was having dinner with friends. I ordered Thai food, ate half, threw the rest away. It's fine. I'm fine. December 25th, 2023, Christmas again. Full circle. 3 years since Michelle died. I can barely remember what her voice sounded like. The next several pages were blank. Then one final entry, dated just 3 days before he died. January 15th, 2024, I've been thinking about the letter I wrote to Margaret. The one I threw away. Maybe I should have sent it. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything. Maybe she would have read it and thought, who is this person, and deleted it. Maybe she would have felt obligated to respond, and we would have had some awkward coffee shop conversation, where we both pretended it wasn't weird. Or maybe she would have wanted to know me. Maybe Emma would have too. I'll never know now. I'm adding Margaret's phone number to my emergency contact info. Not because I think she'll actually come if something happens, but because I want someone to know. I want someone to know I existed. That I wasn't just... The sentence ended there, unfinished. Emma closed the journal carefully, like it was something fragile that might break. She stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city lights. I want to see where he lived, she said. Ryan's apartment was in an old building in northeast Portland, the kind with creaky stairs and thin walls and radiators that clanged. The landlord met us there, a woman in her 60s named Denise, who looked at us with sad, knowing eyes. Your family? She asked. Yes, Emma said before I could answer. Denise unlocked the door. I'm sorry for your loss. Ryan was a good tenant, quiet, always paid rent on time, kept to himself mostly, but he was always polite. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, a cramped kitchen, a living room that barely fit a couch and bookshelf, but it was clean, organized, carefully maintained. The bookshelf dominated the living room. Fantasy novels, history books, poetry collections. They were alphabetized by author. On the bottom shelf, a row of photo albums. Emma went to them immediately, kneeled down, pulled one out. Michelle's smiling face looked up at us from the first page. Baby pictures of Ryan, toddler Ryan at a park, child Ryan at the beach, making a sandcastle, Michelle's arm around his shoulders. He kept all of these, Emma whispered. She turned pages, birthday parties with just the 2 of them, school photos, Michelle at what looked like a hospital, thin and tired but smiling, Ryan sitting beside her bed. The later albums had fewer photos. Teenage Ryan, awkward and uncomfortable in front of the camera, Michelle looking sicker, frailer, then pages and pages of just Michelle alone, photos Ryan must have taken of her. She was beautiful, even sick. Dark hair, warm eyes, a smile that seemed genuine despite everything. The last album was different. This one had newspaper clippings, printed articles, screenshots. It took me a moment to understand what I was looking at. They were all about Emma, her high school debate team winning regionals, an article from her college newspaper about her research project, her Instagram posts, printed out and carefully arranged, photos of her at various ages, all printed from social media, and photos of me, older ones from the nonprofit's website, a picture from some fundraiser dinner, an article I'd written for Environmental Journal. He'd been collecting us, studying us, trying to understand the family he wasn't part of. Emma turned another page and found a printout of her graduation photo, the same one Ryan had mentioned in his journal. Someone had drawn on it, careful pencil marks adding another figure to the edge of the frame. A young man, sketched roughly but recognizable. Ryan had drawn himself into her graduation, standing at the periphery, watching. Emma started crying. I put my arm around her, and we sat there on the floor of Ryan's apartment, surrounded by the evidence of his quiet longing, his careful documentation of lives he'd watched but never touched. In the bedroom, we found more. His degree, framed on the wall, magna cum laude, a small desk with a laptop, papers neatly stacked. Rejection letters from various jobs, dated over the past 6 months. One acceptance letter for a position at a museum, start date January 22nd, 2024. He had a job lined up, Emma said, holding the letter. He was going to work at the Oregon Historical Society, starting next week, on the Nightstand, there was a library book, a fantasy novel, bookmark placed about halfway through, a half-empty glass of water, and a piece of paper, folded carefully. I opened it. It was the letter. The one he'd said he tore up, but he hadn't. He'd kept it, folded it, kept it close. The handwriting was shaky, uncertain, crossed out in places, and rewritten. Dear Margaret, you don't know me. You have no reason to care about this letter or about me. But I'm writing it anyway because I've spent my whole life not saying things, and I'm tired. My name is Ryan Hollis. I'm your ex-husband's son. My mother was Michelle Torres. I'm 22 years old. I'm studying history at Portland State. I like fantasy novels and old movies and coffee that's probably too expensive. I don't want anything from you. I'm not looking for money or a relationship or some kind of family reunion that would make everyone uncomfortable. I just wanted you to know I exist. I wanted to tell you that I have a sister named Emma, and I've watched her grow up in photos, and she seems like an incredible person, and I'm happy she exists, even though I'll never meet her. I wanted to tell you that my mother was the strongest person I ever knew, and she loved me even when I was difficult to love, and she died 3 years ago, and I miss her every single day. I wanted to tell you that I'm okay. I'm making it. I'm doing fine. I'm lying. I'm not doing fine. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to exist in a world where everyone who was supposed to love me either died or chose not to know me. I don't know how to be the kid nobody wanted, but I'm trying. Maybe that's enough. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe because you're the only parent I have left who's still alive, even if you were never actually my parent. Maybe because I needed to tell someone. You won't read this. I won't send it. But I needed to write it anyway. Ryan. Emma read over my shoulder. When she finished, she took the letter from my hands and folded it carefully, put it in her pocket. I would have wanted to know him, she said. If he'd sent this, if I'd known, I would have wanted to know my brother. I know. It's not fair. No. Dad, she stopped, started again. He could have told us. Even after Michelle died. He could have said, hey, you have a brother, he exists. Maybe you'd like to meet him. He could have done that. Yes. Why didn't he? I thought about David, about the man I'd been married to for nearly 3 decades, about the way he compartmentalized his life into neat sections that never had to touch each other. Work, family, secret family, affair, new wife, everything in its place, nothing bleeding into anything else. Because it was easier not to, I said, because having a secret son was a complication he could ignore, and David's very good at ignoring complications. Emma looked around the apartment one more time. What happens to all of this, his stuff? I don't know, I suppose it goes to his next of kin, which would be David. Fuck that, Emma's voice was sharp. He doesn't get to pretend to care now. He doesn't get to box this up and throw it away like Ryan never mattered. What do you want to do? She picked up the photo album with all our pictures in it. I want to keep this, and the letter, and... She looked at the bookshelf. All of it. I want to keep all of it. We spent the next week boxing up Ryan's life. Emma took time off work. I called in sick. We packed books, clothes, photos, every piece of evidence that Ryan Hollis had existed. Denise helped us, brought boxes and tape, told us stories about the quiet young man who'd lived upstairs. He used to feed the neighbor's cat when she went out of town, she said. Never asked for anything in return. Just did it. Tyler came by one afternoon, helped us pack the books. He cried when he found a copy of The Left Hand of Darkness with a note inside. Tyler, you were right about this one. Thanks for the rec. Our help was going to lend it to me, Tyler said. We were going to talk about it over coffee, but he kept canceling, saying he was too busy, too tired. He wiped his eyes. I should have pushed harder. It's not your fault, Emma told him. Everyone says that. But if I'd checked on him, he was good at hiding, I said quietly. Some people are. We found more letters in his desk drawer, drafts, unsent, some to David, angry and hurt, some to Michelle, written after she died, telling her about his day, and more to me, each one a variation of the same theme. I exist. I'm here. Does anyone care? None of them had been sent. Emma read every one. Then she took out her phone and called David again. Dad, I need you to do something. Her voice was cold, controlled. I need you to pay for Ryan's funeral, and I need you to be there. I couldn't hear his response. but I saw Emma's expression harden. I don't care if it's uncomfortable. I don't care if Stephanie thinks it's weird. You owe him this. You owed him everything and you gave him nothing, so the absolute fucking least you can do is show up to his funeral and pretend for one goddamn day that he mattered to you. She hung up. Is he coming? I asked. He didn't say no. The funeral was small. Tyler and a handful of coworkers from the bookstore, a few people from Ryan's classes at Portland State, classmates who remembered the quiet guy who always had good insights during discussions, Denise, Emma and me, and David. He showed up alone, wearing a dark suit, looking uncomfortable and out of place. He tried to talk to me when he arrived, but I walked away. Emma wouldn't even look at him. We held the service at the funeral home chapel. There was no religious component. Ryan hadn't mentioned faith in his journal, and Michelle hadn't had a church. Instead, people spoke. Tyler went first, talked about working with Ryan, about his enthusiasm for books, his quiet humor, the way he'd been getting better at cooking. He made me try these burnt brownies, Tyler said, smiling through tears. They were terrible, but he was so proud of them. He was always trying, always working to be better. A woman named Sarah from his history cohort spoke about Ryan's undergraduate thesis on medieval trade routes. It was brilliant, she said, detailed and well-researched and full of these little insights that made you see everything differently. He should have pursued graduate school. We all told him that, but he said he wasn't sure if he was good enough. Emma stood up without planning to. She walked to the front, holding the letter. I didn't know my brother, she said. Her voice was steady but thick with emotion. I should have known him my whole life. But our father, she looked directly at David, decided we didn't deserve to know each other. He decided that Ryan wasn't worth acknowledging, wasn't worth love or time or even basic honesty. David looked down at his hands. But Ryan was worth knowing, Emma continued. He was smart and kind and he tried so hard. He worked hard. He studied hard. He graduated with honors. He got a job at a museum doing work he loved. He was building a life. Her voice cracked. And he did it all alone, without the family that should have been there, without the father who should have cared. She unfolded the letter and read it aloud, every word, every crossed-out phrase, every attempt at connection. When she finished, the room was silent except for crying. He wanted to be known, Emma said. That's all he wanted, to be seen, to matter to someone. And he deserved that. He deserved so much more than he got. She folded the letter and looked at David again. I hope you never forget this, she said. I hope you remember every day that you had a son and you chose not to know him. I hope it haunts you. She sat back down next to me. I took her hand. I didn't speak at the funeral. I didn't know what to say. I'd never known Ryan. I'd never heard his voice, never seen him smile, never sat across from him at a coffee shop and listened to him talk about Byzantine trade routes or fantasy novels or anything. But I felt his absence like a weight. After the service, David tried to approach Emma and me. We were standing by the memorial table, photos of Ryan we'd selected from his albums, the framed degree, some of his books. Emma, Margaret, please. No, Emma said flatly. I know you're angry. Angry? Emma laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm not angry, Dad. I'm disgusted. With you. With the choice you made every single day for 25 years to pretend your son didn't exist. It wasn't like that. The situation was complicated. Stop saying that! Emma's voice rose. People looked over. Stop hiding behind it was complicated. You had a child. Children aren't complicated. They're simple. They need love. They need presence. They need their parent to show up, and you didn't. His mother didn't want. I don't care what his mother wanted. After she died, he had no one. And you met with him once and then what? Just left? Signed some papers and walked away? David's face was red. What was I supposed to do? He was an adult. He didn't want a relationship with me. He was 21 years old and his mother had just died. He was a kid, and maybe he didn't want a relationship with you, but did you even try? Did you even offer? Silence. You didn't, Emma said quietly, because it was inconvenient, because you had your real family, me and Mom back then, now Stephanie, and Ryan didn't fit into that picture. So you threw money at the problem and called it handled. That's not fair. He killed himself, Dad. Emma's voice broke. Your son killed himself. And in his journal, you know what he wrote? He wrote that everyone either dies or abandons him. He wrote that he was tired of not mattering. He wrote that he was the kid nobody wanted. David's face crumpled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I didn't know he felt that way, David said. If I'd known, you should have known, you should have cared enough to know. Emma turned away from him. I can't do this. I can't look at you right now. She walked away. I followed her outside. We stood in the parking lot. Emma crying, me holding her while she shook. I hate him, she said into my shoulder. I hate him so much. I know. How do you just abandon your kid? How do you do that? I didn't have an answer. David left shortly after, didn't say goodbye, just got in his car and drove away. We scattered Ryan's ashes at the coast. It was what he'd wanted. We found a handwritten will in his desk, simple and clear. Cremation, ashes scattered at Cannon Beach. No ceremony necessary, but we held one anyway. Just Emma, Tyler, and me. We drove out on a gray Sunday morning, the kind of day where the sky and sea blend together into one endless wash of silver. Tyler brought the cookies Ryan had been so proud of, chocolate chip perfectly golden. We ate them on the beach, toes in the cold sand. He'd be happy about this, Tyler said, that someone remembered the cookies. Emma scattered the ashes at the waterline, where the waves could carry them out. She said a few words, nothing formal, just, I wish I'd known you. I wish we'd had time. I stood and watched the water take the ashes and thought about the letter in my pocket, the one I'd written to Ryan, too late, that he'd never read. Dear Ryan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't know you existed. I'm sorry your father kept you hidden. I'm sorry you grew up thinking you didn't matter. You mattered. You were Emma's brother. That means you were part of my family too, whether I knew it or not. And you deserve to be known. You deserve to be loved. I wish I could tell you that in person. I wish I could sit across from you at a coffee shop and listen to you talk about history and books and your mother. I wish I could see you smile. Emma wishes she'd known you. She talks about you all the time now, about how you would have gotten along, about the things you could have done together. She has your photo album on her bookshelf. She's reading all the books you loved. You left a mark, even without trying. You mattered, even when you thought you didn't. I hope you knew that, at the end. I hope you felt it, even a little. I'm sorry we failed you. Margaret. I didn't scatter this letter. I folded it and put it in the box with Ryan's things, the box Emma and I had packed together, that now sat in Emma's apartment in Chicago, where she could look at it whenever she wanted to remember the brother she'd never had the chance to know. 3 months later, Emma called me. I got a letter, she said, from the Oregon Historical Society. The museum? Yeah, they were expecting Ryan to start in January. They didn't know he'd died. I guess no one thought to tell them, so they sent this letter to his old address, and Denise forwarded it to me. What does it say? It's from his would-be supervisor. She said she was looking forward to working with him, that his application had been one of the strongest they'd received, that his thesis work was impressive, and she thought he'd be a great fit for the team. Emma's voice was thick. She said she was sorry for not reaching out sooner, but she'd been hoping he'd still show up. She said if there was any way to reach his family, she wanted them to know that Ryan had real talent, that he would have done important work. Oh, Emma. I wrote back, she said. I told her what happened, about Ryan, about how he didn't have family who knew him, but that I'm his sister and I'm trying to… She stopped. I don't know what I'm trying to do. Honor his memory? Make up for lost time. It's too late for any of it. It's not too late to remember him, I said. It's not too late to make sure people know he existed. I've been thinking about something, Emma said. There's this scholarship at Portland State for history students who show academic promise but lack financial support. I want to set one up in Ryan's name. Use some of the money from Michelle's life insurance. It's still sitting in his account. He never touched it after paying off the debts. It's just there. That's a beautiful idea. I thought maybe you could help with the paperwork, the organization stuff. You're good at that. Of course. And I want to write his story, not like publish it or anything, but I want to write it down, all of it. Who he was, what happened, what we lost. So there's a record, so someone knows. You should, I said. He deserves to be remembered. The scholarship was established 6 months later. the Ryan Hollis Memorial Scholarship for History Students. It awards $5,000 annually to a student who shows academic excellence and financial need. Emma spoke at the first award ceremony. She talked about Ryan, about his love of history, about the potential he'd never gotten to fully realize. She talked about the importance of seeing students not just as statistics or applications, but as full people with dreams and struggles and worth. The first recipient was a young woman named Maria, who wanted to study labor movements in the Pacific Northwest. She cried when she received the award, said it meant she could finish her degree without taking on more debt. "Thank you," she said to Emma. "Thank you for making this possible." Emma cried too. "I still think about the phone call sometimes. The one that started all of this. The detective's voice. Your son killed himself. And my response, I don't have a son. But I did. For 25 years, I had a son I didn't know existed. A boy who studied hard and loved books and made terrible brownies, who drew himself into the edges of his sister's photos because he wanted to belong, who wrote letters he never sent because he was afraid of being unwanted. I carry that with me now. The knowledge of him, the weight of what could have been if things had been different, if David had been braver or more honest or capable of seeing beyond his own convenience. Emma carries it too. She wears a small silver ring now that had been Ryan's. We found it in his apartment, tucked in a drawer. It's too big for her, so she wears it on her thumb. When she's thinking, she twists it absently. We don't talk about it all the time. Sometimes weeks go by where neither of us mentions Ryan, but he's there, in the background of our lives, in the scholarship that bears his name, in the books Emma reads because he loved them, in the way we've both pulled back from David, maintaining only the barest relationship because to do more feels like a betrayal of the son and brother we never knew. Tyler still messages me sometimes, sends me photos of books he thinks Ryan would have liked, tells me about the reading group he started at Powell's in Ryan's memory. They meet once a month and discuss fantasy, novels. It's always full. Last week, he sent me a photo of a new tattoo on his forearm, a simple line drawing of a book, and underneath, for Ryan. I wanted something to remember him by, Tyler wrote, something permanent. I understand that impulse, the need to make the invisible visible, to prove that this person existed, mattered, left a mark. On what would have been Ryan's 26th birthday, Emma and I drove to Cannon Beach again. We brought chocolate chip cookies and sat on the sand and talked about what he might have been doing if he'd lived. The job at the museum, the books he might have read, the life he might have built. Do you think he knew? Emma asked. At the end, that we would have wanted him? I thought about the emergency contact card, about how he'd carried my name in his wallet like a talisman, about the letter he'd written but never sent. I don't know, I said honestly. I hope so, but I don't know. Emma leaned her head on my shoulder. We watched the waves. I miss him, she said. Is that weird, to miss someone you never met? No, I said. I miss him too. And it was true. I missed the conversations we'd never had, the coffee shop meetings that never happened, the chance to tell him that he mattered, that he was wanted, that his existence wasn't a mistake or a complication or something to be hidden. I missed the sun I'd never had. Emma and I sat there until the sun set, until the beach was empty and cold, until it was time to go home. We left the cookies on the sand for the seabirds. Ryan would have liked that. The generosity of it, the way small things can matter. Sometimes I dream about the morgue, about the moment they pulled back the sheet and I saw David's face on a stranger's body. In the dreams, Ryan opens his eyes. He looks at me and says, "You came." And I say, "Of course I came. You're my son." In the dreams, this is enough. He smiles. The marks on his neck fade. He sits up, whole and alive, and we leave together. Reality, I stumbled backward and said, I don't know who this is. But I do know now. Ryan Hollis, born March 14th, 1999, died January 18th, 2024, son of Michelle Torres and David Hollis, brother of Emma, history student, book lover, friend to Tyler. Young man who wanted to be known. He existed. He mattered. And even though I never got to tell him that in person, even though he died thinking he was alone, I'm telling it now. To whoever is listening, to the universe that took him too soon, to the memory of a boy I never met but will carry with me for the rest of my life. Ryan Hollis existed, and he was loved, even if he never knew it. Even if we found out too late, he was loved.